Hello. My problem is with the father's parenting methods. The truth is that he works a lot, sometimes 16 hours a day, almost always 7 days a week. He practically doesn't see his son, 4.8 years old, but when he sees him, he allows him everything, gives him unlimited time on TV, phone, allows him to scream, doesn't scold him when he throws me or breaks something somewhere, as if to compensate for his absence. He even bought him a smartwatch with unlimited minutes when he was 4 years old. If I make a remark about something, instead of supporting me, he starts screaming, I didn't scold him, what happened? For example, he messes with his food, behaves badly outside, reaches out to me or him, scratches the walls, tears up books. In general, we fight a lot about giving him a phone. Unfortunately, he doesn't realize how badly it affects him. He literally doesn't understand a word. This child becomes like a zombie. Outside, he avoids contact with children. Even if they talk to him and invite him to play, he turns away from them and in most cases looks away. I chase him on the streets. He is almost always ready to jump to cross the boulevard, even though there are many cars and trucks in both directions. Almost every day he brakes and crashes, screams and buzzes almost constantly tears up papers somewhere, and I just tell him what, how, why, what over and over again, and nothing. All day long I wonder what to do with him without a TV, and when his father comes home, he is given a phone from the door. Otherwise, he is a very intelligent child. He spoke early, he understands everything, he even learned the alphabet and can spell it. He dresses and puts on his shoes himself from a very young age. He watches what his father does and accordingly, he can even disassemble and assemble his bed. He understands very quickly. But he seems to do all the stupid things out of spite, and because he knows he'll get away with it again, and in the end the adults argue, and the trouble and stupidity he's done goes unpunished. His father rarely talks to him, he just screams like crazy when he scolds him, hovering a few inches from his face, which only stresses him out. The child is now forming as a person, but how can an adult accept a different point of view and change his behavior? I want him to realize what a responsibility he has, developing this little person correctly. It's been a long time, for which I apologize. Thanks in advance to anyone who could help me with advice.
That is a lot. And it's an incredibly honest story that is, without a doubt, exhausting, frustrating, and deeply worrying. So in this explainer, we're going to use a psychological lens to really unpack the dynamics at play here. And more importantly, we're going to build a clear, actionable strategy for finding a way back to stability.
If any part of that story made you think, that sounds like my house, I want you to know you are absolutely not alone. That feeling of exhaustion, of being the only one fighting for structure and safety, it's incredibly common. What we're really looking at is a family system in conflict. So let's break that system down.
Okay, first things first. We have to completely reframe the issue. It is so easy to focus on the child's behavior and see a bad child. But that's not what's happening. What we're actually seeing is a perfectly logical reaction from a young child who is just trying to make sense of a world that feels deeply confusing and unpredictable.
Think about it this way. A child's developing brain craves predictability. It's a little prediction machine that needs to know what to expect to feel safe. But when one parent says no and the other says yes, when rules exist 1 minute and vanish the next, the child is living in what we call a chaotic environment. There's no solid ground to stand on, and that creates a constant, low-level hum of anxiety.
And what's so powerful here is how these behaviors from the story link directly back to that chaos. The constant screaming and buzzing, that's a state of hyperarousal. Running into the street, that's extreme impulsivity. Tearing books, avoiding other kids, zoning out with a phone, these aren't just random acts of defiance. They are classic symptoms of a nervous system that is completely overwhelmed and is just trying to find a way to cope.
And this really gets to the core of the whole conflict. You have these two parental roles pulling in completely opposite directions. On one side, you've got the compensating parent, who's often driven by guilt and just wants to be the fun one. And on the other, you have the exhausted regulating parent, who is left to set all the boundaries, to be the only source of no. And that is an incredibly draining and isolating role to be in.
So to find a real path forward, we have to look behind these actions. Now, understanding the why behind the compensating parent's behavior isn't about excusing it, not at all. It's about finding a smarter, more effective way to actually create change.
So what is really going on here? Why would a parent actively undermine the other's efforts to create safety and structure for their own child?
Well, the motivation is almost never malicious. It's usually this tangled mess of guilt for being away so much, a deep desire to be loved by the child, and just pure chronic exhaustion. If you're working 16-hour days, coming home and setting boundaries feels like starting a second emotionally draining job. Sometimes just giving a phone can feel like the only tool you have left in your toolbox to connect.
And this is exactly why arguing about the phone is so often a dead end. The screen is just the symptom. The real issue is the lack of a unified parental team. The message the child receives is that rules are optional and totally negotiable, which is the very root of all the chaos.
When you're dealing with so many different challenging behaviors all at once, it's easy to feel totally overwhelmed. So to be effective, we have to filter out all the secondary issues and identify the single most urgent priority.
And as frustrating as they are, the real immediate danger isn't the property damage. It's not the torn books or the scratched walls or even the constant screaming. Those are all signs of dysregulation for sure, but they aren't life-threatening.
The single greatest danger is the child running into a busy street. That one behavior shows a profound lack of impulse control, and it's combined with an inability to register real-world danger. This is a 5-alarm fire. Everything else is secondary until this is addressed.
Okay, so now that we've diagnosed the problem and we've pinpointed the priority, how do we actually create change? Let's build a concrete strategy, looking at both how you communicate with a partner and the actions you can take all on your own.
Communication has to be strategic. Starting a conversation in the heat of the moment is just going to lead to defensiveness. The key is to wait for a calm moment and frame the issue around a shared concern. Starting with, "I'm scared," instead of "you're doing it wrong," changes the entire dynamic. It's not an accusation. It's an invitation to solve a shared problem, keeping your child safe.
Now, while you work on that partnership, it is vital to have tools you can use on your own. And this quote is the guiding principle. For an overstimulated child, long lectures are just more noise. Their brain literally can't process it. So your actions become the lesson. This is about natural consequences, not punishment. A torn book simply means the book goes away for a while. A thrown toy means playtime with that toy is over. It's a calm, predictable cause and effect that the child can actually understand. The rule, "we always hold hands on the street," isn't a suggestion. It's a non-negotiable safety requirement. If the child resists, you calmly turn around and go home. That action teaches the boundary far more effectively than words ever could.
And it is so important to acknowledge this. Being the sole regulator in a chaotic system is exhausting. You are the anchor holding everything steady in a storm. It is one of the hardest jobs in parenting, and it is absolutely essential for your child's well-being and safety.
Okay, finally, let's look ahead, because sometimes understanding the long-term impact of a problem is the most powerful motivator for change. It shifts the focus from "this is just so difficult today" to "this is shaping our child's entire future."
So this is the question to really reflect on. If nothing changes in a year, how will this behavior look at age 6? A 4-year-old with no impulse control is a safety risk, but a 6-year-old in a school setting with that same lack of impulse control faces a world of social and academic challenges. Thinking about this isn't meant to create fear, but to create urgency. It's a powerful question to ask yourself, and perhaps, in a calm moment, to ask your partner, what future are we building right now, and is it the one we want for our child?